What is up, self-made Homestead family? Listen, I would be irresponsible if I didn't talk to you about the importance of PPE before we get into this welding video. If you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. We are teaching you how to make welding attainable. In my last video, we built a welding cart from Harbor Freight for less than 800 bucks. That link is in the description below. Today, we are testing and loading that welder, and we're going to get back into welding here at the Self-Made Homestead. I'm really excited, but before I get into that, I've got to go over the PPE. Okay, so from left to right, you have demo gloves and a full face shield. That full face shield will allow you to wear a respirator. Next to that, we have my welding hood, which is titanium. We did a review in that video below, so check that out. A set of eyes if you don't wear glasses. I wear glasses, but they're PPE rated. I'll show you those here in a second. Then I have down here a set of ear protection. These earbuds will save your hearing. Metal will get into your ears. It's just a matter of time. Slag happens. You got to be prepared for it. I've got welding gloves here next to that, okay? I've also got my tools over here, and I've got the cart set up, ready to run this test. Now, I want to stress the importance of a respirator. When you're using a machine indoors, like I am, this is my basement, okay? When I'm using a machine indoors or outside, I love to use respirators. You only get one set of lungs, one set of eyes, and a pair of ears, so protect them. This mask is available at Harbor Freight. That shield is available at Harbor Freight. That hood is available at Harbor Freight. So are these eye protection and those welding gloves. They also sell organic vapor cartridges for this machine. I'm gonna open this, and if they don't have them, I encourage you to get these. We're gonna do a review and a setup here in a second, but I cannot stress it enough. All of the PPE on this table may look like a lot, and trust me, I used to weld in the desert right outside of Death Valley. Shout out to Pahrump, Nevada. It used to be in the mid hundreds, like 115, 120 on the highest day recorded in Death Valley at 129. It was 121 at my fab shop, and I was welding. You need to wear protection. Now, I wear a smock so that I can get into all kinds of crazy welding situations. When you're going 5G or overhead, slag falls because gravity is real. Protect yourself at all times. I cannot stress it enough. Protect your neck like Wu-Tang, okay? Your neck, your lungs, your eyes, your head. Now, not seen because I'm wearing it is my welding cap. You wear it backwards. There's a little duckbill flap. Wear it backwards. Don't try to be cute. Wear it backwards to protect your neck. Slag falls behind your hood. When you're welding in 5G, you have to wear protection. I can't stress it enough. Okay, now that I've got into the safety tips, we're gonna get started with the review of this welder. All right, so in my last video, I built this welding cart for less than 800 bucks. Majority of the materials were found at Harbor Freight. Now, the welder I'm gonna be using for a lot of my hobby stuff for you guys and the training content is this titanium inverter welder. It is the Flux 125. It's super light, and it's powered by regular 120 volt, which means you can plug it into your house. If you weld or are exposed to welding at all, you used to have to hump a huge generator around, and it gets really, really cumbersome. You only get one back, take care of it. So I built this entire rig for less than 800 bucks. Again, that video is in the description below. I want you to check it out. But today we're gonna cover setting up the machine, running a couple of test beads, and making it go. So I'm gonna put on all this PPE, and I'll get back to you in a second. Okay, so as you can see, the demo gloves are gone because they're gonna be on. This hood is a full face ANSI shield for grinding, cutting, metal prep. I use the demo gloves with that. That's my welding hood, and those are the welding gloves. These ears will be worn when I'm doing metal prep so that hot metal shards don't go into my eardrums. Also, when I'm welding so that slag doesn't fall in there. I'd much rather replace a $5 set of earplugs, for 3 of them, over my eardrums any day. Okay, so now we're gonna go into this Gerson respirator, okay? We're gonna unbox it and open it up. We're gonna go through and set it up so that we know we're welding properly, safely, prepping metal safely, especially indoors. All right, so I've opened the bag, and I gotta say, for 25 bucks, I think it's what it was, you cannot beat this combo kit, okay? So let's go through it. These are some OV, or organic vapor cartridges. This is the particulate filter, and these bad boys are for grinding and sanding. They are the nuisance OV, or organic vapors. So here's how this would work. I just run these full time, okay? These are backup. You'd use these if you were painting or priming to keep that stuff out of your nose and your lungs. You'd use these for metal prep, but again, these guys are the guys I like to run. And of course, it comes with the mask. So I'm gonna set it up and show you how we wear this bad boy. Okay, so if you've never worn one of these, I wanna break it down for you. Super simple math, okay? There are 3 tabs on the side of the respirator and 3 notches on the filter. You align the notches on the filter with the tabs on the respirator, rotate clockwise, and you'll end up with something like this, okay? I'm gonna do the other side and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is what it should look like. I'm using my welding hood as a mirror, so bear with me. Here's one cartridge, here's another cartridge. You want to make sure that you got a solid seal on the gasket that's on the respirator. This is what it sounds like. So, when you're about to weld, or if you're going to cut metal, any of the prep you're going to do, use a respirator. And now we'll get into the installation of the welding wire and hopefully a couple of test beads. So, side note, look right here. If you hear, I don't have Darth Vader with me, but I'm keeping my lungs safe. This is what my voice will sound like through the recording while we're welding. All right, game on, people. I know you're waiting for this review, so here we go. First, I just want to say this is one of the lightest welders I've ever used in my life, and I'm really excited to see how it throws beads. But before we do that, we got to set it up. So, read the instructions. I know, dudes, that's against your religion. I've seen videos where guys literally throw them in the trash, but there's valuable information, including how to set this thing up properly with wire feed in those instructions. So we're going to go ahead and get that dialed in. You need to use the instructions to figure out how to tighten the tensioner here under the hood. So we'll flip it open. Yes, my gloves are off right now because I'm not feeding the wire yet. But when I am, I will be using gloves, trust and believe, because this stuff is like needle sharp when you do it right. Okay, it says, hold on, let me use this super awesome cart to rotate you into the light. There we go. It says, release idler arm. Ensure wire diameter showing on feed roller matches wire size. This bad boy is equipped for 030 and 035. It comes stock with a 030 and 035 roller. Now, make sure that the 030 is set up if you're running 030 and 035 if you're running 035. Then you're gonna remove the consumable, the tip, and feed the wire through. You want to make sure that it's all the way through. That's why you need your dikes. I'll show you that here now. Okay, so to load a spool, here's what you got to do. Remove this. Remove this. It's a spring. Everybody knows what that looks like. And remove this. Left with the spindle. Okay. Now, your idler arm is where you feed in. That's here. Okay. The tensioner is here. Pop that bad boy open. That's going to release tension. Okay. Then you're going to unwrap your wire spool and load it thusly. I'll check back after I've done that because I got to put gloves on. All right, so the spool has been loaded. What you want to make sure is that you've got the wire feeding the way that the machine shows you. Should look like that, okay? Okay. You're going to make sure the idle arm is in line. You want to make sure the drive roll is set to 030 if you're using 030 or 035 if you're using 035. Then you close down the feed tensioner to close the gate. The next step is powering it up and feeding wire through. Then you're going to set your tension. All right, so for the power up, I'd like to reiterate what the instructions already say and we've already gone over. Cut off all bent and crimped wire, okay? When you get a new spool, they wrap it so that it doesn't bird's nest in the package, which is important. In welding, we call it bird's nesting when the filler wire pops off the spool at an uncontrolled rate and pretty much all of that is spent. You could take your time and try to refill it, but it's always going to give you drama, so I cut it off. That means wasted material. Don't like to do that. So you cut off all the crimped ends, make a nice flat cut. That's what we've done here. Keep the tension on the wire, okay? Make sure that the welding wire is resting in the groove of the feed roller. We've done that. Make sure you have the right roller size selected. We're using 030, so that's good. The tension should be 2 to 3. Too much force on flux cord wire will cause it to crush and it'll give you drama. Remember that. Next, unscrew the contact tip counterclockwise and remove. Here's what we do. You're going to take the contact tip off. Always give the path of least resistance from your lead, so make it straight. That's what they say here in step 12. Then we're going to power it up and give it some feed. Point the gun away from all objects. This part's important. Press and hold the cold feed switch on the gun until the wire feeds through the end of the gun 2 inches. That's without the contact tip. This is also important. I hope this doesn't happen. The wire liner may come out with the welding wire. This is normal. Just turn off the welder and push the wire liner back into the gun. We'll see what happens. If the spool doesn't feed properly and it's stationary, turn off and unplug the welder and slightly tighten the feed tensioner clockwise before retrying. We'll work on that now. This should go without saying, but I want to make sure it's understood. After the wire is loaded, make sure you put the spool nut back on and tighten her down. I've seen a lot of guys call me frustrated because the wire wouldn't feed properly and they got a whole bunch of bird's nests, but this is your number one defense. That and the tensioner, this and the tensioner are your number 1 and 2 lines of defense for wire tension and feed. Make sure that goes back on. All right, so we're humming. You're gonna press the trigger on the torch and watch for speed. What you don't want is for the roll to not turn and you don't want it to not feed. So you're gonna be watching the contact and the drive roll here as well as the spool when you press the trigger. You'll see it. Also, make damn sure that you're not ground out anywhere. That's important. See how my grounding clamp is on a rubber mat? insulated? Yeah, there's a reason for that. That's another reason why we built the cart. So now it's feeding, 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 feeding. Also, I got the wire speed super slow right now. See that? Super slow. I've got it set to snail because I want to make sure that it's right. I'm going to stand all the way back here. I'm watching the wire speed and listening to it. Okay, so there you go. When you run into this issue, it's usually because the tension is too high or your wire speed is too slow. So I'll show you, I did this intentionally. I'll show you what to do in this situation. So you're gonna take the wire speed, turn it up a little bit, okay? Watch. And you're looking over here for the wire to come out. So I'll put that in the shot too. There we go. Now, the instructions say you want about 2 to 3 inches. It's about that right there. Okay? Now, the next step is reinstalling the contact tip and the nozzle and then doing the wood test, which is why the wood block is right there. Thread the contact tip back on after the machine is off. Notice it's off. You don't want to accidentally shock yourself. Okay? Then you're going to go ahead and put the nozzle back on. These are threaded, which I kind of like. Should look like this. And after you're to this point, go ahead and grab your dikes and cut yourself a 1/2 inch of stick out. I'll show you what that looks like. But that stick out term means the stick out from the contact tip out, not from the nozzle out, nozzle plus contact tip. At the contact tip, you want a 1/2 inch out. So we're gonna do that next. And there you go, about a 1/2 inch of stick out. Now we're ready for the next part of the test. We're gonna check the wire's tension and we're gonna use the cold feed switch or the trigger to feed the wire against a piece of wood, which is why we've got this block over here. Okay. And you want it to, as they say here, to check the wire's drive tension, press and hold the cold feed switch to feed the wire against a piece of wood from 2 to 3 inches away. Thusly, incrementally increase tension until wire bends. So that's what we're gonna do now. All right, so the machine is back on. We're gonna feed the wire. There we go. Got ourselves a nice little bend. I'm gonna do it again to confirm. 2 to 3 inches away, feed, bend. Now we're gonna cut out this stick out back to 1/2 inch and we should be ready to weld some stuff. Stick out back to a 1/2 inch, nice and clean. Now remember, you see these pieces of wire? You do not want those to end up anywhere in your house if you're welding in a project welding situation, okay? I keep a magnet roller for things like this and a trash bin for things like this. I'll show you also little things that you can do with these wire pieces. So if you want to collect them, you can turn them into art, which also makes money in a fab shop, which is our objective. By the way, if you wondered why I'm teaching you this stuff, I'm trying to teach you how to make welding crafts at home and set up a nice little project studio should you choose to. Or, if you're a farmer, fix a gate. All right, so if you've stuck it out this far, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a bonus video clip here. We're gonna build one of my favorite things to build in order to test a rig. It's also something you're gonna need if you have more than one angle grinder. So in this video, we're gonna do our test and go ahead and assemble a nice angle grinder stand for my bench here. Here's how this is gonna work. We're using this flat strap, which is 1.5 inch, 1/8 wall, okay? We're also using this piece of square tube here. It's 1 inch square. Got that for free. We're gonna make it pretty and we're gonna do some fit up. Remember your PPE. I'll check back when everything's prepped. Okay, so Darth Vader is clocking in. I laid out my material using those chalk pencils and a square. All right, so the first piece is a 12-incher, giggity, and we're gonna use this 1 inch in 3-inch increments, okay? I'm gonna make them all pretty and then show you how the bevel works so you get a nice clean tack. That's step one, okay? Here we go. Okay, so here's the quick little get down. That's the 1.5 inch strap we messed with earlier. That's the 1 inch all prettied up. Hit it with a flap wheel, 120 grit. You can also use a couple of different solvents. We'll get into that in the next video, metal prep. But for a test, this isn't bad. I laid out my angle grinders to make sure that they'll fit here, and they will. Always double check your fit up, especially when you're making custom tool holders. And after I fit them up, we'll do a review. A couple of things to note. Gloves are coming on next. Get you your steel only brush for brushing out your welds after the fact. Chip hammer and a good pair of dikes. Keep those close. All right, we'll check back in here in a second. Okay, so I'm intentionally putting a bunch of different settings to this thing. Understand that there are settings in the hood and they're perfect. You just require a little bit of dialing in based on the materials you're joining. So, a couple of things to note. I've intentionally set the work apart. The instructions tell you to use material that you're not, their words are, use scrap material before welding anything of value. That's why I always start with something simple like a grinder holder or like a rack for something super easy out of scrap metal that's free. But my first take is it's pretty cool. I just want to show you guys this before I weld it up. I've been messing with all 4 sides of this. Gives me 16 different tries at getting it dialed in to what I like and the wire speed, etc. So look at that gap and watch me come back to it, okay? This is for one of those situations where you're just learning and you're like, oh crap, what do? I cut the material too short, or there's too much stick out. There's too much standoff between the materials that I'm joining. That happens a lot when you're learning. But Flux Core Welding, or FCAW, Flux Core Arc Welding, allows you to fill these gaps, and in situations where stuff breaks, that's awesome. So watch, I'll fix these and I'll come back. Okay, so my initial thought process on this welder. If you've never welded before, you'll use a little bit of tinkering, but you can get it done. That's why you always use something like practice metal to make it happen. This weld was the one that was all that had about an 1/8 inch standoff between the material. And I got some pretty solid results. Now, there's some stuff that needs to happen. It's got to cool off. I hit it with a wire brush though. But, I mean, all things considered, I think with enough practice, a hobby guy could get pretty good at this thing. That's my first take. I'll take my PPE off so you can hear me better, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I got my PPE off, and I wanted to show you this. This is the stuff that guys don't ever show you on YouTube, and it pisses me off. So, when you're welding, you're gonna do stuff like this. Amperage, too low or too high. Wire feed, too low or too high. But look, you cannot be afraid. When I teach people in my fab shop, I tell them, look, you're gonna burn through some metal before you throw some good beads. That's truth. This machine was fresh out of the box, and I am unveiling the truth. All these YouTube welders do this. If they tell you they don't, they're lying. Especially when they're doing these unbox reviews. When they do the unboxing and we'll test it out type stuff. If they show you the pretty welds, always be suspect. I'm keeping it all the way real here at Self-Made because I know you're going to do stuff like this, but it might be discouraging to you. I don't want it to be. I want you to be able to look at these and take it from this to stuff like this, okay? You can get dimes out of this little Harbor Freight machine. Now, the slag is going to happen as you fine-tune your settings. I encourage you to keep a notebook. Keep that notebook in your workbox. You'll get pretty welds when you do take note of it. I wanted to show you the process of cleaning this thing out real quickly. All right, so first things first, be cautious of hot metal. Look at this weld right here, okay? That's an inside weld, but I can already tell you there's dimes there. So let me just go through the process. Number one, Flux core has a shield on it. So what you're gonna do is hit it with your slag hammer. Break that loose, okay? Also get in there and get these little berries out. That's slag there. If you can't hear me, that's slag. Now, then you're gonna take your wire brush, the steel only guy, right? And you're gonna go ahead and get in there nice and deep like, and you're gonna brush it off. Hold on. I'll brush it off. This is also part of the process. I'm trying to make you guys laugh. Understand, I know how this works. I'm trying to make you laugh here. So I'm gonna brush this off with two hands and show you what it looks like. All right, and we're back. So there's some dimes there. There's some potential for you guys to get this material right. Get this dialed in properly. Now, I'll clean this thing all up and show you what it looks like when we're done, but I got a couple more sides to do. Once I got the settings dialed in, I can do these sides and show you what those look like. I intentionally left a couple of those blank. That guy, and the one on the end. I'll do those and show you what it looks like when you get it dialed in. Okay, guys, so we started by learning this machine with welds like this, getting stuff like this, starting to show, no, I wouldn't even call that progress. Look at the slag. And then you get stuff like this, which is just gross. Now, with a little bit of effort in learning the machine, you gotta have patience when you weld. That's number one. You can come in and get stuff like this. There's dimes there. This one I'm still not too happy with. Dimes. 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 Sorry about my finger. Dimes. Look. Oh, and here's the other part. It's important. You don't want any deflection in your base metal. That's where you get it so damn hot that it warps like a taco shell. There's none of that. This thing's solid. Okay, so this is the side you're gonna see. I intentionally did it this way to learn the machine. Now, a couple of things. I'm not gonna be like those YouTube welders, okay? I'm gonna be candid, I'm gonna be real. I want you to understand you're gonna burn through material, you're gonna get mad, you're gonna get angry. It might cost you money, but if you stick with it, you'll learn how to weld. Now, my first out-of-the-box welds with this thing, I'm impressed. First of all, I plugged it into a house outlet. I've never in the history of my welding been able to do that, ever. Nothing burned up, nothing died. My machine's still intact, welder's still intact, cart is still holding it down. You can still see my reflection in the hood, which means I didn't burn myself out. Cart's still organized. Now, I can't stress it enough. Welding is like fishing. That's why I love both of them. They require patience and a little bit of fortitude. If you want to learn on this, if you want to take this journey with us, if you want to learn how to weld from home on the YouTube channel as a I just went to Harbor Freight beginner, please like, subscribe, and share. I'm here to teach you the real, and at the end of the day, this should help, and if it has, mash that like button. Share this with somebody who's going out to Black Friday shop for some welding stuff, and I'll see you on the next video. My name is Mike May. I own Self-Made Homestead with the boss. I can't say that I don't because she'll cut me. And we'll see you on the next video. Peace. I'll show you this thing one more time after it's installed. And that's a wrap for real this time. I just wanted to show you guys how this looks installed. They're just floating. They look like they're just floating there, ever so gently. Not bad for a first project with a right out of the box welder. I'm not just doing some butt welds and beating some stuff in a vise. I'm teaching you guys some stuff. And if that's of value to you, please mash that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one. It's Mike May with the Self-Made Homestead. And this was another episode of Mike Made It. Peace.